Hello, my people, my people. For many years now, six to be exact, I have been interviewing countless influencers and experts. Somebody who may be just like you. You may be a small business owner, or you might be someone with a compelling story, or want to educate our audience, our people, you, the people. Come on down to the Transform You Media Network. We are rolling out docuseries, 5-part interviews that you can be a part of. We want to feature you. You can be in our next documentary. Send an email to media@transformu.us or visit transformubroadcast.com and hit the contact us button. We'll see you there.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. You are on the Cheap Mama Life podcast, and I am your host, Brenda Kilhofer. I am your Cheap Mama. I am excited today to have the author of 2 Lifetimes from Fear to Love on our show. And Patti Henry is here with us today. She started her career as a therapist and had actually was set out, has another book out there on healing for men. And she has some really incredible information and ideas to share with us. As you all know, I love growing, and I'm really excited about the fear and love dynamic in our lives, because I do know that they really don't coexist. So without any further ado, I would like Patti, go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit and kind of, just start to tell us a little bit about why and how you came upon this.
Okay, great. Well, I'm so glad to be here because our work in the world is very congruent with each other. So that's kind of fun for me, for sure. Well, the only thing I know for sure, 100% is true, is that we have to, as human beings, make up a story for things that there's no definitive answer. Like there are some questions that we don't really have a definitive answer. Like, why are we here? What are we supposed to be doing while we're here? What happens after we die? Is there a God? Is there not a God? Just a lot of people will say, oh, I know the answer to those questions, but really they're just saying what they believe. And I believe that everybody should know what they believe individually, not because they were told this is the truth, but because they have found for themselves that this is the truth, whatever that is. And so I feel that every baby comes to the planet as a light, pure, beautiful, wonderful light. And you came that way, I came that way, every person we met came that way, came whole and complete. We have all of our emotions available. If it's a 2-year-old girl or a 2-year-old boy, they will let you know if they're not happy. And so they have access to their whole emotional spectrum. And the problem is our world is not living at that high emotional level of love yet. I mean, you can look at the last election cycle and see the world is not there yet. So here comes this perfect little baby. It gets thrown into lifetime 1 with its parents and siblings, and every one of us gets wounded in that first lifetime. We get left out, we get yelled at, we get abandoned, we get hit. I had a client, I've been a psychotherapist for 32 years, and I had a client whose parents did not believe in spanking their children. Instead, they burnt them with cigarettes in order to get compliance. And I was like, oh my goodness, so sorry, right? And so we get hurt in this first lifetime, hopefully not that badly, but a lot of people get really, really hurt. And we get, we're picked last to be on the baseball team. We're, it's just a series of rejections. And the story that I make up then is why we are here, what we are supposed to be doing while we're on the planet. And I believe it's to outgrow what happened to us in lifetime one, transform it, and use it to be part of the healing of lifetime two, become part of the healing force of the world. And I believe if everybody did that work, we could heal the world. We could be at world peace. So
absolutely. I love that. And I think, and you brought up that as children, we all get wounded. And isn't that sometimes even because of the stories? I mean, not everybody has to have the physical hurts or, but sometimes we just make, it could be mom and dad at the store with their daughter, and they have to pick up the phone and they're not paying attention. And then that little girl makes up the story. They don't care about me, or that's more important. So I think it's even in those wounds and hurts, a lot of times it's about the story that we make up ourselves about what
happened,
wound or hurt meant about us versus
it's not about us.
Yeah. And I love that. And I know for me in my own personal journey, that's been, when I could embrace the past hurts and accept that they are gifts that now have made me who I am. And because of them, I'm more relatable to others and can do more and help more. So I love that. So
that's what I'm talking about, transforming what happened to you into something you can use.
So tell me more. How does the book outline it? What am I going to learn? Tell me more.
Okay. Like, I want to give you an example of that, though. My biological dad was alcoholic and not a nice person. And because of that, I'm a better therapist. I'm able to use that understanding of what that's like to be embarrassed by your dad. And when somebody comes into my office and says, "Oh, I'm from an alcoholic home, you probably don't know what that's like," I can say, "Actually, I do. I do know what that's like, and I can help you." So everything that we had happen, if we can transform it somehow to use it, then we get to second lifetime.
Absolutely. When you brought that up, it made me think of a situation in my business life. So, sometimes it's not, and we ended up, we were doing great and starting to get all of our debts paid off and things like that. And then my husband got laid off. And prior to that, I had people in my business and on my team that would say, "Well, I can't do that. I can't go to this training. I can't afford this. I can't afford that." And because I couldn't relate to their situation because they were on food stamps or they were on state aid, I couldn't relate to that. And I'm like, I bought that excuse. I accepted it and I didn't push. But then once we had that opportunity to be on unemployment and had to apply for food stamps and had to, go to the grocery store and feel that wave of humiliation every time I handed them the EBT card, or what was worse, when I was pregnant and had to have WIC and it's like, "Oh, well, you have the wrong milk. Go back and get the other milk. You can't have that peanut butter. You have to have this peanut butter," and just that feeling of humiliation. And so then I could sit down with my person who said, "No, I can't do that," and say, "Yes, you can. I built this. I continue to build this business. I continue to do those things while I was in the same place. And you can too. And this is the way out of it." So I love that, transforming those experiences for sure. So how does somebody, it sounds good, right? It sounds like, you've done it. I've done it. There's a lot of people in the world who have done it, but how does somebody begin to do that?
Well, I wanted to say one more thing before we move on to that question, is that if we get a message when we're little, even one time at the right time, you can carry that with you for your lifetime. Like if you were told as a child, you talk too much. Oh my gosh, would you shut up? You talk too much. And then that goes into your heart deeply, then you might spend the next several years not talking at all, not connecting at all, being afraid that I'm going to get yelled at, I'm going to be put down, I'm going to be rejected. And so that fear is really running you. And so my hope in certainly in my book, Two Lifetimes, is to teach people how to get out of that fear and get into their empowered self. And it's really looking at, you know, what happened, owning it, dealing with that, the person that hurt you, whether in person or just visualizing it. And I have a forgiveness exercise in my book that you write down everything that was said to you, done to you, and who did it. And then you have your list and you pick someone and you envision that person coming towards you, taking ownership of what they did. I did do that to you. I'm sorry. And then saying, will you forgive me? Now, you don't have to say yes. You can say, I'm not ready to do that. I'm sorry, you'll have to come back another time. And if you don't forgive them, then you keep them on your list until you go through your list and go back and start again. Um, I mean, if it's something really egregious, like you murdered my mother, you know, you're probably not going to be ready to just forgive them right off. They'll have to come back and come back and come back and tell you over and over again, I wish I hadn't done that. I'm so sorry. I wish I could make it up to you. Will you please forgive me? And there'll come a time when you'll say, okay. I don't know if you're familiar with the Forgiveness Project, but it's really people that are able to forgive huge things that have happened to them. And it's very inspiring to not hold on to those comments that really weren't even about you. They could be about your parent was frustrated at that time or tired or something, um, and learning not to take things in about you. Even when people are saying you this, you that, it's not really about you. They're trying to tell you something important about themselves. And so we learn how to listen differently. My book is kind of a guidebook. It's hopefully, I think of it as walking with people in their process so they can understand, what's the next step, what can I do next, and really get to some healing.
So you end up putting actions to, I mean, is it as the guidebook, is it, you know, as they do those exercises, it's not one of those that you just read cover to cover, but you sit down and you do the work as you read through it.
I
And
don't have,
probably pick it up time and time again, right?
well, I'm not really a fan of doing exercises from books.
Right.
So I have like two that I say,
Okay.
do these two. The forgiveness exercise is one of them. Um, but mostly you will think, that did happen to me. Oh my goodness. Okay. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, that was a wound. And just starting to identify that we repeat it in our primary relationships if we don't clean it up. And so, if you have abandonment in your history, then you're going to pick a partner who will leave you, who will abandon you, who will be a workaholic, who will be an alcoholic. You know, they will in some way abandon you. And until that comes to the surface, then we just are fighting the wrong enemy. We
Right.
have to understand what it is we're carrying with us
Mhm.
and how we are duplicating it in our lives and deciding, I don't want to do that anymore. I want a better life. I guess that's the biggest feedback I get from this book, Two Lifetimes, that I say it will change your life. And people write and tell me it's changed my life. I mean, I had to read it twice,
Right.
but because there's so much meat in there, but I'm different now.
Wonderful. And I mean, it sounds like that forgiveness exercise in and of itself is probably extremely powerful. Um, for me, it was learning that we do the best we can with what we have, so that those, or with what we know. So, just like I didn't know any different,
Mhm.
really being able to see that, what, my mom and dad, or the or family members that hurt me, did the best they could with what they had been given in their life and with their tools. And to be able to say, okay, you know I know different now. They may not know different. They may not be in that space of knowing different. But if I can picture them as that little child that I also was, being hurt or injured, for
Right.
me, forgiveness flowed so much easier.
And
Um,
compassion that way.
yes, compassion.
Really start looking at, what happened to my parents.
Yeah.
And uh, we are, I don't know why, but we're really good at offering compassion to children,
Yeah.
not so much adults.
Right.
You can see the little wounded child inside of whoever you're wrestling with. It helps for sure.
Awesome.
Um, so
So
I'll
what's the next steps? How do we, so we begin with forgiveness, it sounds like. How do we start to transform that fear into that second lifetime into love?
Yeah. Um, Actually, we don't begin with forgiveness, but
Oh,
um, just education at first, understanding,
okay.
where we are and how we got there. And I want to tell you a story about, I have two children, and my younger child was 18. It was
Mhm.
in March of his senior year of high school, and he was laying on the couch, and I sat down next to him. I put my hand on his leg, and he pulled a pillow over his head. And I said, "Hey, what's going on?" And he said, "I'm kind of depressed." And I said, "Okay, well, do you want to talk about it?" He said, "Yeah. Um, I thought when I turned 18, he's like 18 in 2 weeks when he's telling
Uh-huh.
um, I would be an adult. I would be in the second lifetime."
Mm.
And I said, "Oh, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, honey. Those will be your issues that you have to work out and transform." And he said, "Yeah, I really thought when I turned 18, I would get rid of all the baggage you gave me and all the baggage dad gave me." And I said, "No, we weren't awake when you were a baby and you were
Mhm.
real small. We had to grow into that." I said, "There's lifetime one and lifetime two, and in between is a dragon. And
Mm.
everybody, I believe, gets the same dragon. And it's the universal wound that we all walk with." And I said, "I got it. My grandparents gave it to my parents gave it to me." And he said, "Yeah, and you gave it to me." And I said, "Yeah, and I gave it to you." The
Mm.
universal wound is, I'm not good enough.
Mm.
Some people get a little bit of it, some people get a lot of it. And, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not rich enough, I'm not enough, enough, enough. And
Right.
so we keep acting that belief out until we tell ourselves a higher truth that
Mm.
you are good enough. And the reality is that is the truth.
Right.
Everybody is good enough to be an imperfect human being.
Mhm.
There are no perfect people. We're all imperfect, trying to figure out this world, trying to, make a living, trying to, get to happy. And it's the same as everyone. So when you start to claim, I'm just a human being here on the planet, doing the best I can with the tools that I was given, and that's good enough. I think my book gives more tools to people to
Right.
to use. Um,
And I do. I think you're right. I hear that, in whatever conversation or objection, when somebody fears
mhm.
taking that step toward a goal or towards something that they really want, there's the I'm not enough. I'm not.
Right.
Gosh, it really hit me because I was thinking one of my I have a horse and I'm a pretty new rider, and we are struggling right now. We had actually worked together and gotten to this place where it was amazing. We could, and then I gained weight,
Mm.
and that really kind of messed with my head. And I got and we ended up having an accident as
Mm.
a result of me not being able to get on her, but already thinking in my head before trying that, am I going to be able to do this? Can I do this? I'm not in that situation. It's the I'm not skinny enough.
Right.
I,
Not
the
enough.
the
Right.
the words in my head are I'm too fat, but
Yeah.
ultimately it results to the I'm not, the core is I'm not skinny enough.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
That,
so that yeah, that really resonates with me. I'm sure it resonates with a lot of people.
well, I believe it's really a universal wound that we
Yeah.
all get and we all have to confront and, you know, slay that dragon and say, I don't believe that anymore. Leave me alone. I know I am good enough. I know I am capable. And for people to really start to claim the truth,
Mhm.
a different truth than you've been carrying around.
Yeah.
And so, really, in 2 lifetimes, I confront those lies that you tell yourself.
You know what, I find it, you had made this statement, that, yes, I gave you those wounds before I understood, before I was woke to you, you know, um, and I think though, even and tell me if you disagree or you think it's not right, but I think even when we truly are and we understand as a parent, and maybe this is why it's universal, as a parent we always want, even those that harm their children, they still want better for their children than they had for themselves. So we're always still, to a degree, as parents, correcting. And even when we're correcting with the best intention, in the most loving way possible, we're still sending that message, or it's still being received as I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty, in some, even so that even with the, so not to beat up on our parents or even us as parents, it feels to me like no matter how conscious and aware as a parent we can be,
Mm-hmm. Well,
is that, would you agree? Is that why it's a universal wound that?
I think they will get it anyway, the
Okay.
universal wound. Even if the parents um, don't directly give it to them, their
Mhm.
teachers will, their
Mm,
friends will, their friends' parents will. I mean, it's just part of our culture of trying to be perfect.
mm,
So letting go of that perfect drive and saying, you know what, who I am is enough. As I am is enough. Um, I was gonna tell you story about that. Uh, And now I am role modeling how it's okay to forget things that you're going to say.
I do a lot of that because of that horse. Like, I mean, it's, like I know what I'm supposed to say and it's right here. In fact, I did that with the introduction with you and it was like just,
Right.
but and that's, yeah, I think you fall on your head a few times off a horse. It does change that a little bit. And age probably is a part of it, but yeah, that's been,
Yeah,
I
a new
appreciate.
awakening, right? But definitely accepting of my imperfections as being perfect. Because if we didn't have imperfections, then we really wouldn't be a perfect human being, because human beings are supposed to be not perfect. It's a circular argument. Human beings learn from mistakes. And so they're valuable. When we mess up and or forget something, it's okay. And I say in this book, if I could give a gift to everybody in the world, it would be the phrase, and that's okay.
That's incredible. Well, let's take a quick break and come back and
Hey people, Transform You Media Network. If you are enjoying the Cheap Mama life, I want to tell you about more content that is similar to what you are receiving right now. If you are the type of person that enjoy inspiration or insightful wisdom that takes you away from the junk that they are giving to you in the mainstream, the Transform You Media Network is the place to be. You want to find more content like this over on our YouTube page, our Roku channel, or on Google Podcasts, Spotify, or Apple. Simply do a Google search, type in Transform You Media Network, or go over to our main website at transformyoubroadcast.com. That's transform the letter U, broadcast.com. See what we have to offer. We will transform your life and business.
hi, and welcome back to the show. I'm your Cheap Mama, Brenda Kilhofer, and today we're talking to Patti Henry, who is the author of 2 lifetimes, From Fear to Love. And in the first segment, we talked a lot about a universal wound that I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, and we are going to start talking about how does that translate to the fear part of our life, and then how do we begin to transform it?
Mm-hmm. Those are good questions. One thing I wanted to just touch on for a minute was how important what we tell ourselves is, our self-talk. I always say garbage in, garbage out. And so if you're just saying, I can't do it, I'm not good enough, I never, I'll never make it, I'll never, I remember one of my children who was struggling said, Mom, what do I do about this or that? And I said, honey, you are smart. You will figure it out. And he said, what if I don't? What if I don't figure it out?
Wow.
I said,
Yeah.
well, everyone does. And you will too. You will figure out, what you want to do for a living, what you will meet people that you need to meet. You just have to believe that you are capable and you are smart. I think our child self gets a problem handed to them and says, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do this. Our adult self gets the same problem handed to them, and they say, I don't know what to do, but I'm really smart and I can figure it out. And so we take a stab at it and we brainstorm about what are some options here and pick the one that resonates the best with your soul. And if you're going down that path and it doesn't feel right, then you can stop. You can change your mind and go back and brainstorm again. Pick something else. and not be so hard on ourselves. Like we have to get it right and we have to get A pluses and we have to, you know what? Sometimes life is not like that. I have a chapter in my book about the is of life, that there are, it's kind of a Buddhist concept, that there are some ises of life that really there's nothing we can do about them. Like an example would be we're all born and we all die.
Right.
You can argue it, but it's still the way it is.
Yeah.
Human beings need oxygen. You can
Mhm.
argue it, but it doesn't make it any different.
Right.
So just being aware that sometimes we run into an is. This is the way it is. And so the work is, how do I come to peace about it?
Right.
A good friend of mine's husband just died this week, actually, and he wasn't sick. He was in good health. So we're all just shocked and stunned. And no matter how much we cry
Mhm.
or upset or whatever, he's not coming back.
Right.
And so we have to come to terms with the is. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not, but there are times where we can't impact and make it the way we want it to be. And so we have to work on ourselves. Gandhi always said, turn the searchlight inward and look at yourself first. Look at, where can I grow here? Why did this happen? Why did this happen to me in this point in
Mhm.
time? And what am I supposed to learn from it? And
And I
so,
think there's a lot of ises that, um, that sometimes they could they be different, correct? Like you brought up at the very beginning, the election, in the world that we live in. The bottom line is that is our world. And
our world.
we don't necessarily have the influence. We don't have the influence to fix that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we accept that, right now, this is it. This is it. This is what it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And yet, what is it that I can fix in
Right.
what can I act? What are the pieces that I can influence to still have joy and happiness and love and light in this place that we're at right now?
Right. Exactly. And it's, I talk about ABC, and ABC is work by Albert Ellis from, I don't know, 40 years ago, probably. And that an action happens in our life that we didn't cause to happen. We're sitting at the red light and somebody rammed into the rear of the car. Okay. B, we have a belief about it. And our belief determines our consequence or how we get to feel. And so belief is the only place where we have any control. So I say, if you're going to make up a story, make up one in your favor, because life is short. And this is truly how I live my life. I want to be happy. I want to be productive. And so I make up a story in my favor. Let me give you an example. Road ragers. I live in Houston. We have a lot of cars. If I'm going somewhere, so are a million of my closest friends. They're all on the highway with me. And so sometimes people cut you off because they want to get in your row and your lane. And the road rager says, that guy's an idiot. Oh my gosh, did you see that? He's trying to push me around. He thinks that, he owns the road. He needs to be taught a lesson. So these are all beliefs. And what the consequence is going to be is he'll rage. He might, get out a shotgun and from his rifle rack in the truck and shoot the guy or shoot his tires or, do something that is just not a good idea. So when somebody cuts me off, I say to myself, that guy's wife's having a baby. She's trying to get, or he's trying to get to the hospital, and he's out of his mind right now. He's not thinking of anybody except getting to the hospital, because that's how my husband drove when we had our first child, and he was going in and out, and I was like, honey, we're not going to make it to the hospital, because he was out of his mind. So sometimes I tell myself, oh, that guy has a minimum wage job where he has to punch into a time clock. And if he's late again, he's already been late twice. Right. And if he's late today, he's going to get fired. So then my consequence can be compassion. Come on over, buddy. Come on in. And I can be happy.
So tell me if we've, so you're talking about the 2 lifetimes. If I've spent a lifetime of the first story that always pops up is that, what an idiot. Oh my gosh. Why is it? What a jerk. He cut me off. He did this to me. What if that's, for many of us, and I know for me, those were the kinds of scripts that used to run in the head. It was always a distrust, a negative, it had to be something bad, and it was being done to me. How do we get to a place where the default is creating the story that serves us versus the story that doesn't? Because I know, I had a little situation this weekend, and I was, now I was able to reframe it. I stayed mad. I stayed upset for less than 5 minutes. I'm like, all right, let me, and recognized where I was, and I was able to reframe it and walk away from it, that it's great. But what does it take to get to the place where that's the first story that comes up, not the second story, not a reframed story, but automatically by default, I choose the good? How does that start to happen for someone?
Well, for sure, it takes practice. It's a process, not an event. And so you have to learn to be gentle with yourself as you learn this new process. It's really learning how to respond instead of react. And if you find yourself reacting, you close your lips together and think about how you want to deal with this that's going on. And it's hard. I think to shift from reacting to responding is all of it, from lifetime 1 to lifetime 2, to really learn not to react, to calm it down, to slow it down. Responding is slower. Reacting is lightning fast speed. And we're saying and doing things that we don't even mean and aren't even true to us. Certainly, there's science that proves that anger makes us stupid because it cuts off from our prefrontal lobe of our brain, and you're just in the amygdala with all the emotional stuff. And learning to ABC something is slowing it down and thinking, making conscious choice instead of programmed stuff that we carry around with us. It's like, wait a minute, there must be a better way, a better solution. Let me think about it and make a conscious choice. I'm going to try this. And it may or may not work, and that's okay.
And it can be hard because the programs that are running us are all around us. I mean, when we're wanting to make that shift, when that can still be our desire, we realize, okay, that, somebody listens to you, they hear this, like, oh, that makes sense. Let me start trying to do that. And what's going on in the world is, to your point, you brought up media earlier. There's 100 angry, killing, stabbing stories of reaction. Or you're watching now. I mean, now you're watching them have a reactionary fight on the media, yelling at one another together. If an interviewee and a person doesn't agree, versus them having a an open conversation that where you're gaining information, you're considering it, and you're making the choice or the belief for you, having that thought process. That's what you said. They need to think. I don't know that we teach in this fast paced, instant gratification world that we live in today. I don't know that we even teach
Mm-hmm.
to think anymore.
I think the best we can do by our kids is learn to respond and not react. When my younger son was 4, I was dressing him down for something. Like he said he would do something, he didn't do it. And he looked up at me and he said, "Mom, I need you to be nice to me all the time." I said, "You want me to be nice to you all the time?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, um, I don't know if I can be." And he said, "I'm counting on you. You're my rock. I'm trying to figure out life. I can't figure it out. I'm trying to figure out school. I'm trying to figure out girls. I'm trying to figure out, Mom, I'm counting on you." From that point on, I tried really hard never to raise my voice at him because he couldn't hear me. And
Right.
he was counting on me to be an adult. I say lifetime 1, moving to lifetime 2, you're moving from fear to operating out of love. Another way of saying it is you're moving from reactionary into being able to respond.
Right.
Another way of saying it is our mission on the planet is to grow up, to become an emotional adult.
What I love about what you just shared, when you, how old did you say your son was when that conversation took place?
Well, I was thinking he was real young, but I think he was probably about 12.
And so what I love about that is for him to even have had that level of conversation with you, even before that, you were obviously doing a lot of things right, because for him to have put that together and be able to put the words in and feel safe enough, even to have that conversation with you. I mean, really, truly kudos to you.
You. But yeah, I think that, life with a therapist.
And I think, I love that. I guess my point is when we really truly listen to our children, especially our younger, they are wise beyond words, and not just listen to them, but when we watch how they react to the world, what your son said is so key, I think, for all parents. I'm counting on you to show me the way. If I'm in my home showing the way, and I do it, that's my emotional, that's one that, I can be very reactionary, and I have one right now that thinks he has developed a humor for it, and he knows it, and so he actually puts things in the wrong place in the kitchen on purpose because he knows he'll get a reaction, and he does and so finally the other day I was looking for something and I just started laughing. I'm like, okay, he's doing, but then later I see him or the youngest one reacting.
Yeah.
And so it's not always just about listen, but when we watch our kids, because so many times we hear adults saying, "Oh, these kids today." Well, these kids today had us walk through their life as their example.
Right.
So when we ask, why are they beating each other up on social media? Why are they fighting? Why are they treating each other this way? Well, because they watched us do it.
Right.
So I love that.
Sometimes parents get called into the principal's office because their kid is cursing.
Right.
They say to me as their therapist, "Can you believe it?" And where do you think they got those words? Oh, well, I say those words sometimes, but not very often. I said, you don't have to say them very often for them to pick that up and
Mhm.
think that
Yeah,
that is the way to do it. So,
right.
yeah, they are definitely watching us, and we're doing the best we can, and that counts.
Right, right. Yes, and we can, and it's that's that fine line. That's what I'd really love to get to. How you said it's a process. Now, when you talk to lifetimes from fear to love, do you mean that once you hit lifetime two, that you never fall back into lifetime one, that you don't have those moments of fear? Is there an arrival point in lifetime two?
Uh-huh. Um, I think that it's a spectrum, and we can definitely go up very high and then slide back, and then go up very high and then slide back. And um, the goal is to have longer times in between,
Mhm.
and that you praise yourself when are able to not react, because
Mhm.
inside, um, I'll tell the story. And my younger son was valedictorian of his high school, and
Yeah.
he got a full scholarship to college. And um, he went away to college, but in Houston, where we live at the University of
Mhm.
Houston. And he would call me up sometimes and say, "Hey, mom, can you meet me for lunch? Can I got to talk to you," or whatever. Okay. So I would meet him. And sometimes, yeah, he met me when he was a freshman in college.
Mhm.
And it was right the week before Thanksgiving, or the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. And he said, "Mom, I'm really scared, and I need to know that I have your support."
Mhm.
And I thought, oh gosh, he got somebody pregnant. I said,
Oh.
um, okay, well, let's get together and talk about it. And said, Mom, I'm beginning to believe what you're telling me. You've told me all these years that we have to outgrow our fear to be
Mhm.
free. And I said, that's right. And he said, so I thought to myself, what's the scariest thing I can do?
Mhm.
And I decided it's drop out of school. And
Wow.
inside, I'm like, ah!
Right?
On the outside, I am cool as a cucumber, because I know reactionary is not going to be helpful here.
Mhm.
So I said, well, do you mean after, like, next week, after you get your 16 credits that you're, in right now? And he said, no, I already dropped out yesterday.
Wow.
Oh, well, that's an expensive statement, honey, because when you come back, they're not going to have you on full scholarship. And he said, I know, Mom, but I've got to. I know people are going to tell me making the wrong choice. I know people are going to say, "Oh, that's stupid." I know people are going
Mhm.
to try to talk me into staying in school. But I've decided the most important thing is for me to outgrow what other people think of me.
Mhm.
I have to know that I'm okay with my choices. And I'm like, you're right. I back you 100%.
Yeah.
And so he dropped out, and he worked for a nonprofit for 4 years. He
Mhm.
learned a lot. And now he's a wildland firefighter in a national forest, and happy, 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 doing
That's
well.
incredible. And I think there's so many we have this preconceived notion of what it's supposed to look like, go to school. And the reality is when we're living our life to meet somebody else's expectations be rather than living it to chase our own
Yeah.
dreams, purpose, goals. That's I have a daughter who's going into her senior year,
Mhm.
and she's got all of these questions and I don't know what to do. Should I go into this? Should I go into that? Should I go, and we've, one of the things that we've instilled in ours is if you want college, then you get to get the grades, you get to get your scholarships. We're not paying for it for the experience. We're not, that's not, this is your life. You will be an 18-year-old. It's your responsibility. You can work through it. You could, and now and a lot of it is because from the financial side of me, the cheap mama side of me is like, 53% of college graduates are graduating with degrees that they don't use. They can't find a job. They're going into minimum wage jobs and they have all of this debt that now has added stress. And so I am 100% all for, if somebody knows that I want to be a doctor, that's what I want to pursue. I'm going in, then by all means do what you have. But, with my daughter, it's like, oh, maybe the best thing, and she's made the grade, like she can go get those scholarships. And does it make sense if you don't know what you're going to do? Does it make sense to have any level of debt if you don't know what course of study you even want to? Maybe spending a few years in the real world in a community college, getting the basic things out and done, trying different things is the best route for you, but you get to make that choice. I'm not, because she comes to me should I be a lawyer or should I go into dermatology? I said, what do you want?
Yeah.
And it's so hard as a parent not to tell them what you think they should do, because we know we have the answers, but it's like, what do you want?
That whatever you choose is going to be the right answer, honey. So for you to claim that you have choice, it's the big lesson here.
Yes.
And they say, but there are too many choices. I know. It's like the Cheesecake Factory. Do you have that wherever you are? Have you ever gone to the Cheesecake
Yes, I love, yes.
Oh. Their menu is a book. Oh my gosh, I could eat that or this or that or this, but you only get to eat one.
Right. Unless you're on a cruise, then you can order everything because it's included, right? And try a little bit.
But it's, that you will figure it out, honey. And you don't have to know it at 18. I mean, really, it's kind of absurd for people to think that you're going to want. I mean, some people do. Most knew at 5 years old he was going to play the piano and compose music, but most people are not Mozart. Most people have to go through different jobs and different people. And, Michelle Obama became a lawyer. Have you read her book on?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, she became an attorney and she hated it. She just hated it. She's like, I cannot do this for my life. And so she quit being an attorney, even though she had lots of debt and, it just didn't fit her soul. Right. And so I was like, good for you.
Yep.
So anyway.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today. Tell our audience how to find you, how to find your book, give them all the details so that, if any of this resonated, and so much resonated for me, how do we begin the journey? Find out more, learn more about you and your books.
Okay. So I have a website and it's Patti, Patti, and then there's a hyphen, and then Henry, Patti-Henry.com. That's a good way to get a hold of me. You can email me there or my phone numbers are there. So Patti-Henry.com, but you definitely need the dash because there's another Patti Henry. She's an author and she writes racy novels.
Oof.
I write.
So you'll get a whole different story if you reach out to that Patti Henry.
Right. Yeah, she writes, go back and sleep with your principal at your 20th reunion. I mean, she writes
Mm,
stuff like that, and I'm writing how to heal the world. So it's kind of funny. Um,
funny. Oh, yes.
but
Too
she's delightful too. So she's good.
wonderful.
But, and the easiest way to get my book is just go on Amazon and put in either Patti Henry or Two Lifetimes. My other book will come up too. I have two other books on Amazon. One is The Emotionally Unavailable Man, A Blueprint for Healing. And the other one is Gotta Go. And that's about getting over the fear of dying and getting ready to go. Because I
Oh,
had cancer in 2010, and I realized I was not ready. I didn't
right.
have a will or anything.
Hmm.
So that book, Gotta Go, has all the forms you need to get ready and prepared and to get over your fear of dying.
Mm, wonderful.
So yeah, Amazon.
Very good. Well, thank you again, Patty, so much for being here. Hopefully you'll come back some other time. Obviously, there's so much, so much great content that families need to hear. And
Well, my latest book, Two Lifetimes, is about 10 therapy sessions.
wow.
It's definitely worth getting. It's a part
Absolutely. Sounds like it. I can't wait to get my hands on it. Thank you so much again for being here today. We enjoyed having you. And for those of you out there listening, if you have questions that you want answered on the show, or if you too would like to be a guest on the show, please email me at Brenda at cheapmamalife.com, or visit my website, cheapmamalife.com. Have a great day. We will see you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed that episode of the Cheap Mama Life podcast. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review right now if you haven't already, and hit that share button. Until next time.